Now, the Albanese government is scrambling to shore up support in the US, in Washington, after Trump's win, with the Australian newspaper reporting that senior cabinet ministers were very confident Kamala Harris would beat Trump and that it would be business as usual for Australia. Yet again, no understanding of the climate in America. But you can imagine the Albanese government, how they'd be feeling, quite nervous now, given the past comments that many of them have made about Trump. Now, Kevin Rudd, who of course is our ambassador in Washington, he's in charge of handling our critical relationship with the US. And just a reminder, and I showed these back in March, but here's some footage of what he said about Trump in the past.
The alliance is intrinsically valuable, whatever the future may hold, and Trump's only around for another 3 years, maybe less. He is an objective problem for the world, for the region, for my country. And Donald, as we know, is not a leading intellectual force.
You looked at a Trump rally and how many angry white men there are in those rallies.
It's so damaging. And the Prime Minister today claimed that none of this would be a problem.
Kevin Rudd is doing a terrific job, and it says a lot about how important we regard the relationship with the United States that we appointed a former Prime Minister. No, I look forward to working with President Trump. I look forward, I've had demonstrated, I think, my ability to work with world leaders and to develop relationships with them which are positive.
But Labor is obviously worried because today Sky News broke the story that Rudd has been deleting disparaging comments that he made about Trump on X. Rudd said in June 2020 that Trump was the most destructive president in history. He drags America and democracy through the mud. He thrives in fomenting, not healing, division. He abuses Christianity, church and Bible to justify violence, all aided and abetted by Murdoch's Fox News networks in America. Well, that garbage has now been deleted by Rudd. And so is this tweet from February 2022. Donald Trump is a traitor to the West. Murdoch was Trump's biggest backer. And on it goes. All gone, all deleted. Rudd's private office said he did this to eliminate the possibility of such comments being misconstrued as reflecting his position as ambassador and, by extension, the views of the Australian government. But really, this all just draws more public attention to what Rudd has said repeatedly in many occasions on video and on X in the past. And this is all right at the time our government, on behalf of all Australia, needs to make sure the relationship is rock solid. Well, Simon Birmingham today implied that Rudd might have to go.
We want to see him succeed because it's in Australia's best interests for our ambassador in Washington. Of course, Kevin Rudd is not bigger than Australia's interests, nor is Anthony Albanese's personal commitment to Kevin Rudd.
And Michael Kroger said the same on my show, but in stronger terms last night.
Any decent ambassador, a Peacock, a Beasley, a Hockey, anyone who'd said that about the US president would resign.
It's shocking judgment. Kevin Rudd should have known that there was a possibility Rudd could come back in the future. The MAGA movement clearly never went away. Really poor judgment. All right, let's bring you now National Senator Matt Canavan and commentator Jason Morrison. Matt, what do you think? Do you think this does put all of Australia in a difficult position because of Rudd's shocking judgment in the past? I mean, those remarks were so juvenile.
Look, they were juvenile, they were unwise, but I don't want to see Kevin go because I don't think the Australian ambassador should be determined by the votes of Americans. This is our ambassador, it's our country, and we should ultimately decide who is there. Obviously, we need him to work in our country's interests, so I think that can be done. I mean, Donald Trump has shown a remarkable ability to work with people that have said the most vitriolic things about him in the past, including his vice presidential pick. So, look, obviously, Kevin needs to apologise as he has. His apology needs to be as loud as his disrespect was in the first place. And I think if he shows significant diplomatic skills, our relationship will be fine. So Look, I'm not too worked up about it. I'm much more worked up about the government's madcap green climate policies and how that's at odds with now the new administration's agenda and what that means for our country, than who's actually in the ambassador's office in Washington, D.C. I don't think it affects many people's lives here in this country.
You know what, Matt? I wasn't so worked up about it last night either, because I'd been speaking to people, you know, on this show like Joe Hockey, who said to me, Kevin Rudd's been working so hard to make amends, building bridges. But then I watched those comments that he made. I mean, that was from my own report back in March this year. And just watching again the vitriol with which he criticised Trump's intellect, how he called him a traitor, how he said he was, you know, abusing Christianity and the Bible, and lashed out at all of us here at News Corp as well. And this ultimately is the Prime Minister's bad judgment.
Look, that he had to delete the tweets in itself tells you how inappropriate a choice he was for the job in the first place. Everybody knew it. Well, let's not kid ourselves. He's over there because they got the trouble out of the room. You know, he's not there because he's the greatest pick in Australia right now to go and represent Australia's interests. He's there because if he stays here, he has a habit of causing trouble for his own team. He can't keep his trap shut, as that is demonstrated. So they had to get him out of the country. There was a job. Hopefully that'll work. It didn't work. If he had any class at all, and I'm saying this in the knowledge that Kevin Rudd has none, but if he had any class at all, he'd resign. He would do what's best for Australia. And I take what Matt says, and Matt is right. We shouldn't be dictated to by another country as to who we send there. But we should hope that someone, for God knows what reason, ended up Prime Minister of Australia, would have at least the class, decency and intellect to figure out that this may not be good for this country's best interests. I mean, right now there's farmers absolutely trembling at the prospect of tariff changes and whatever else.
I was going to bring that up.
Rudd is not going to be able to do anything. They won't even talk to him.
Exactly. I mean, Australia is going to be expecting an exemption, as we've had in the past, from the 10% tariffs. But we've got Rudd who's going to negotiate that, who said all these nasty things about Trump before.
Have some class,
why should Trump have to just overlook? It wasn't a one-off lapse of judgment. It was a repeat pattern of behaviour.